Angel tax is back to haunt the startup ecosystem. Over the past few days, there have been reports of several early-stage startups receiving notices from the Income Tax Department asking them to clear outstanding dues on the angel funding received by them. Now, this despite the government's previous assurance. The Central Board of Direct Taxation had issued a circular in February assuring startups that no coercive measures would be taken to recover outstanding angel tax demands. Later on in May, the government declared that no angel tax will be levied to up to 10 crore rupees of funding raised by a startup. So once again, for the benefit of all of our viewers, what exactly is the angel tax? It is the tax that the startup pays on the investment recovered from an external investor above its fair market valuation. Now, that's where the problem lies. How do you determine fair market valuation? Startups consider this a deterrent to the spirit of entrepreneurship. Industry leaders like Mohandas Pai, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, and Mahindra have already raised their objections to the tax notices issued. So joining me now on the show, three special guests. Mohandas Pai, chairman of the Manipal Global Education Services, a startup investor himself. He's also the chairman of Aaron Capital. Also with us, Srijit Muleyal, co-founder of True Elements, Abe Zachariah, co-founder and CEO of Goodbox, and Rajesh Sani, founder of GSF Accelerator and co-founder of Healthy, also with us. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Mohandas Pai, this is almost deja vu. I remember that during the month of April, we had discussed this ad nauseum, the ghost of the angel tax returns to haunt the Indian startup ecosystem. What's going on?
What is going on is the Income Tax Department is out of control. They're not listening to the CBTD guidelines. They're not going by what government has promised the taxpayers. There is no concept of taxpayer service. And they've gone totally overboard. Let me give you an example. For example, a venture capital fund has been asked to come to Varanasi to explain why they invested in a company at that valuation, whereas the law clearly stipulates that any venture capital fund registered with SEBI will not be asked this question. Then some few income tax officers have taken the difference between the projection and the actual achievement and the difference between valuation and added that to income to say, you gave a projection, you didn't see the projection, you've done less, now the difference is what you have to pay as tax. And they're using coercive action to pay 20%. This is totally absurd because the government of India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi promised that there'll be ease of doing business and everything. And last year, Shereen, after...
Yeah, but what's the point of these promises, Mr. Pai? No, but that's my point. That's my point. We have done a sustained campaign. You were on that program. What's the point of these promises if they translate into this on the ground?
Shereen, I want to ask Prime Minister Narendra Modi as to who runs this country. Our Prime Minister runs this country. Now, the tax officers are beyond control of anybody. The Prime Minister's office, the DIPP, and everybody, Finance Ministry, asked the CBT take action. CBT called some of us, we explained, and they promised to do it. Now we see all this happening on a much wider scale than last time. And assessment orders have been passed, people have been put in trouble, and it's gone beyond control. This is tax terrorism at the worst. I want to ask our Finance Minister publicly that he promised us tax terrorism will be brought down when he came to power in 2014. What has been done? It is 4.5 years. It's time that our representative took charge of this country and didn't allow all these people to go overboard to harass young people, harass citizens. We are suffering from tax terrorism, and this is an extreme example where circulars are not being listened to, not being obeyed. I think this is very, very serious, Shereen. It cannot go on like this.
You're right that this is serious and we have seen assurances in the past, but clearly what we're seeing today is a return of exactly the very same issues. Let me bring in Srijit Muleyal into this conversation. Srijit, as I pointed out, we've been discussing this issue. We brought it to the attention of the authorities several months ago, and yet it returns. Do you agree with Mr. Mohandas Pai that this time around the action is far worse? In fact, to quote Mr. Pai, he says the action is far more perverse than the last time on part of the Income Tax Department.
I would completely agree with Mr. Pai because there's a huge gap between what the leadership wants and what bureaucracy is doing. Now, last year, when we were discussing the same topic, and I had an order last time. This year, I'm waiting next order for my subsequent round. But the number of orders which has been issued in the last 2-3 weeks is exponentially high. What we doubt is probably startups are an easy target for income tax officers to meet their targets, because one startup minimum they would have raised 1.5-2 crore in angel round, and you can issue an order of 40 lakhs. That's what has been happening. So there is no change except that there is a clarity or an alternative process which is very cumbersome, complex process of IMD approval for people who are going to raise fund. Again, that's not a solution. Because I myself have applied in IMD almost 4 months back, nothing has moved. I applied for against my order with an appeal last year, nothing has moved. So there is better clarity, but executionally there is nothing has changed since last 1 year.
Okay, you haven't seen any forward movement since the last 1 year, which is when you received your income tax notice. Rajesh Sani, let me come to you. You run the GSF Accelerator. You deal with startups as well. What is the experience that you're facing with respect to the angel tax?
Hey, Shereen, I think there are 3 key issues. One is the valuation. As Mohan Das also said, I don't think income tax officers are capable of valuing any startup. In fact, that's the only valuation method that they understand or want to understand is DCF. And DCF clearly doesn't work when you want to, value a startup. Many of the startups may not even have any revenue for many years and still may be valuable. So this goes against the basic premise of how the startups are funded by angels. So that is creating a lot of friction. And then the second issue is they are targeting. I think they are systematically targeting the startups. This is both arbitrary and indiscriminate. And none of the startups has been spared.
Can we put some numbers on this? Rajesh Sani, I mean, I want for the benefit of all of our viewers, again, the point that Rajesh is making there on the discounted cash flow, the DCF method, which doesn't take into account intangibles like IP, market potential, etc. Rajesh Sani's argument is that that is something that the tax department is used to, and this is not how startups are valued necessarily, and that's causing a point of friction. But do we have some data? How many income tax notices have been sent out? How many penalty notices have been sent out? Rajesh, do you have any anecdotal information as well on what is the quantum of this problem?
I think at hundreds. In fact, I have seen in my portfolio 10 to 15 companies that are dealing with these issues. And it's essentially for the companies that those were registered in 2015 and 16. So I think there's some kind of targeting of those companies. Almost every startup that was registered in that time period and has raised some money has been sent a notice. And they are now dealing with income tax officers.
Okay.
Out of 40 in one of
and what has been the response? Have you tried to... Sorry, what were you saying, Mr. Pai?
See, out of 40 startups in one of our funds, 10 have got notices this year. And some of them have been really harassed. 10 have got notices. That is 25% out of a portfolio of 40. And we got about 25 notices from other people. I mean, another 15 notices from other people who have come, who are all our friends in the system, who are asking for help. So we got about 25 particular cases of notices and some assessment orders which have been passed. Assessment orders which have been passed also we have got.
Okay, so about 25 out of your own portfolio companies have been given notices of one kind or the other. Let me go across to Abby Zachariah of Goodbox as well. Abby, what exactly is the problem that you're faced with? I believe that you've been slapped with a penalty as well.
Yeah, so basically we had raised a small angel round from two very well-known entrepreneurs. I don't want to name them right now. Amounting to about 60 lakhs. So on that, we got a tax of about 24 lakhs, including the interest, etc., as we slammed rounds. This is like for the recent one.
Okay.
Yeah. But we will work around on that in terms of the appeals, etc., and we may have some set of the losses to be done. But the whole process is like very cumbersome and totally uncalled for. Because if you look at the background of these investors who have put money, the source of fund comes from well-known startup exits. Okay, and we ourselves are a fully compliant company, no cash payouts, audited by Deloitte. And we have to go through this whole rigmarole because there's a bunch of guys who may be doing money laundering, right? So that is where our problem is. And now for the last 2-3 days now, it's very disturbing. And instead of looking at our business, we tend to worry about this.
Okay. All right, so that's the problem that you're faced with. But Mr. Pai, let's go back to what we should realistically now expect, and what is the want or the ask from the government? You said that what was announced last time, there were two circulars, one from the DIPP, one from the CBDT, which basically said that there should be no coercive action. You believe that that was a quick fix, it was a short-term fix, but something more permanent is needed. Now, what is that solution that you want the government to take forward?
Well, the solution that we want the government to take forward is, if there is a valuation by a chartered accountant or a merchant banker, that valuation should be accepted. The income tax officer should not question it, because he has no competence to question it, because that is a valuation certificate given. That's point number one. Point number two, the PAN details of every investor is given in the tax returns. They ask for it, everybody has been given. Now they can go check up the PAN from the database, because all filing is electronic, and check up and see, is there any person who has invested a certain amount, and if you look at his income tax record for last 3-4 years, the database, does he have the income to invest? They have a right to invest, they should do it. And only for those people where they feel that they don't have the correct income, they can send a notice to the investor to say, why don't you explain your investment? Because there's something called the AIR return for mutual funds, but they must do. But what they do is they send a notice to a startup and say, give me a list of all your investors, give me a list of all the PAN, give me their income tax return for last 3 years, give me the balance sheet for last 3 years. Now, bank statements and balance sheets and income tax return of all the investors is confidential. We are given the PAN is there in the database, let them make the search. They're not making the search. They're asking the startup to give, and they give the startup 5 days, 6 days. It's not enough to get any details. Then they say, give the thing. If we don't give it, we'll have coercive action. And there is panic. So they have, see, let us accept. They have a right to ask for source of money. That is the law. Let them ask for source of money. And the next thing is, wherever funds are invested, the law is that the valuation is done by a SEBI-registered fund. They must not ask questions. Now they're asking the funds to come and explain why this is happening. So the solution is very clear. CBT issues circulars. The law is also clear, but they're not applying the law. They're judging themselves and arrogating themselves the right to do everything which is wrong. Because if professionals are given a certificate, you accept the certificate, that is the law. And you can ask people for sources. That is your prerogative. But instead of that, you go after the startup. And another thing, Shereen, in India, our assessment system is broken because there is rampant tax terrorism. I'm putting it on record. I've been saying for 5 years. And our appeal system is broken. Now he issues that thing. They force people to pay. It goes in appeal. By the time the commissioner will definitely side with revenue, because 80-85% they always side with revenue. Then you go to the tribunal. Tribunal takes 3 years. Then they go to the High Court. High Court takes 5 years. Then Supreme Court takes 10 to 15 years. You can't have a country with a broken assessment system and a broken appeal system. If you fix one of them, then fine. There can be some fight. Now there is no hope.
Okay, tax terrorism of the worst sort, an assessment system that's broken and an appeal system that's broken as well. Rajesh Sani, final word to you. Is there a crisis of confidence in the startup ecosystem today?
Totally. I think more than not just the startups, I think there's a crisis of confidence in angel investors. No one wants to be harassed for... angel investing is the riskiest asset class. And I think that's also getting broken in as well with this process.
All right, as we pointed out to our viewers, that this is...
Shereen, Shereen, look at the tragedy, Shereen. Only 10% of the total investment of $13.7 billion come from India. Now you're driving away the angel investors, you're driving away individuals. Who is going to invest? All the startups are going to be owned by foreign capital. Out of the 26 unicorns, 22, I think, are domiciled outside India. Out of the 31 unicorns, great majority domiciled outside India. We are becoming a digital colony, and the income tax officers are helping us become a digital colony with Indians not investing. And if they invest, they get harassed. It's much better to stay outside India and in Singapore register, they get the money there and invest in India, and you're safe. What kind of a country is this, Shereen? What kind of a system is this where you discriminate against your own investors, you harass your own people, you terrorize your own people?
Mr. Pai, you have the years. You have the years of the government, sir. You're saying this. I mean, you know, that really speaks volumes that you're saying what kind of a country is this for startups?
Yes, absolutely. We have worked hard for the startup of the last 4 years. Prime Minister Modi has given a fantastic policy. He created the 10,000 crore, but he has done everything else. But the Finance Ministry has not done its bit, and the CBTD is not able to enforce its writ on the officers.